Hello, welcome to this brief video about why you should manage your requirements using TraceCloud. This video has about 13 slides and should take approximately 10 minutes to complete. To start with, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Well, if you to look at your past projects that ran into troubles and analyze the root cause, you're likely to see the following issues. The first one is the usual culprit, missed and misinterpreted requirements. That is, it did not notice that requirements were missing till it was too late for your development teams. Or your development teams occasionally misinterpret your requirements. Right? The other scenario is lack of change control. This typically happens when requirements keep on changing till late into the project, and typically, if you are not aware of this change or if you do not control it properly, what ends up happening is either the delivery date gets pushed out or the quality of the end delivery code suffers. Another problem is a lack of change impact analysis. This is mostly because most tools don't provide visibility into the impact of changing one requirement. That is, requirements don't exist in isolation. They're always related to one another. So if you're changing this requirement, what is the overall system-wide impact you're having? It would be nice if you could see it in one place, but since most tools don't provide it, you typically don't have access to that information. One of the problem is change propagation. That is, you agree to a change and you made the change, but how do you know that this change has been communicated to everybody downstream and that they have accepted and internalized the change? Classic example is a business requirement is changed. Well, how do you know that the functional requirement has changed accordingly, or that the test case is being tested and modified according to the new business requirement? Another problem is a lack of visibility into the project's progress and finding out these trouble spots before it becomes too late. Most tools in the market do not have a built-in business intelligence. This is where we differ, and we provide dashboards and reporting systems that suit different needs, and it all comes as part of the core TraceCloud system. Another problem is lack of clearly defined ownership of requirements. Why is this important? Well, you'll notice that requirements often fall through the cracks of ownership. That is, you're about to deliver a project or you're about to hit a milestone and you realize that you thought somebody else owned that requirement and that never got delivered because the other person thought you probably owned it. What is TraceCloud? Well, TraceCloud is a flexible, lightweight, powerful requirements management solution. How is it different from other players out there like say Requisite Pro or Doors? Is because a lot of emphasis has gone both into the usability of the tool and to make it lightweight. At the same time, TraceCloud is the only tool that comes with a built-in business intelligence system that identifies the trouble spots before they become major showstoppers. And TraceCloud is flexible, so you can use either Agile or Waterfall model depending on what your process dictates. And TraceCloud is feature rich. We don't want that to scare you. You can always start off with the features that are relevant to you and that matter most to you, like for example, ability to arrange requirements into folders, have collaboration turned on, and track different versions of requirements, and have access to say dashboards and trends. And later on, as your process matures, you might decide to use say Word document integration or baseline requirements based on your needs, or have an approval workflow. Coming back to the 6 trouble spots I identified earlier, I'll go a little bit more into detail. Right? The first one we talked about was the case of missed and misinterpreted requirements. How can TraceCloud help? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it has built-in metrics. What it does is, at every stage in the project, it tries to identify what are the requirements that nobody is working on, say, in the next stage. For example, if you look at this image, I have my release, and in this release I have certain business requirements. Well, the next step I expect to see is that every business requirement has a functional requirement that is addressing it. And I can look at my dangling, that's a technical term for requirements that do not have somebody working on it in the next phase. And I can see that I have this 41 business requirements that do not have corresponding functional requirement. Similarly, I can look at my functional requirements. I have 84 of them. Looks like all 84 are dangling. What that means is they do not have a corresponding test case. And that immediately identifies a hole in my development process. I've identified some requirements that do not have a corresponding functional requirement, and I've identified some functional requirements without a test case. And these links are clickable. I can click on it, get those requirements, and talk to the appropriate owners. TraceCloud, as I was talking about, the built-in business intelligence system, also comes with a set of canned reports so that you don't have to define very complex views. They're already there for you. In this example, I can look at a project and try to run a report that says, get me all my requirements that are dangling. That is basically requirements that do not have a corresponding downstream requirement. And you can see there are a bunch of other reports I could run at any point in time. I did not address the concept of misinterpreted requirements. I'll do that slightly further down when I come to folder level security or change control. And here we are. What we do with change control is TraceCloud gives a very granular level of control. That is, you put your requirements in a folder, and then you can go to different roles. In this case, I'm looking at the engineering role, and these are the users in that role, and I could dictate what those users could do to the requirements in this folder. I could say, well, these roles can read the business requirements but cannot modify or create or delete business requirements. And now the place where it comes into misinterpreted requirements is I could have a role called engineering, another called product marketing. They both product marketing gets to create the business requirements, but engineering can be an approver on the requirement, so that both engineering and product marketing get a say or shake hands by the process of approving that the requirements are defined well enough and understood by both teams, and they can go to the next step, right? And the place where change control comes into picture is once, say, you shake hands and you agree that you have a date set for features you're releasing, you can lock down the folder to make sure nobody makes any changes after the agreement is done. Well, change impact analysis. We all agree that change is the only constant, and despite our best wishes, requirements do change. But before you change the requirement, it would be nice to see what is the impact of changing that requirement. As I mentioned earlier, requirements do not exist in isolation. So you're touching something, well, that thing is touching something else. So in TraceCloud, I believe this is the only tool that provides this feature. You have a concept called a CIA. In this case, this requirement is, if you were to touch this, you're impacting a business requirement in another project, which impacts the release, and you'll be impacting a few functional requirements and test cases downstream. So before you decide to go ahead and take a plunge, you know what is the impact of that plunge is. And this can traverse across projects, so it doesn't limit yourself to one project. You could have multiple projects in your system. If requirements are related, CAA will find it and tell you what the change impact is. Well, you decided to control change, you couldn't. They did the analysis and you decided to go ahead with the change. The next challenge is change propagation. That is, we all agreed and we made the change, but how do we know that the downstream teams have accepted it and have internalized the change? Here comes in something called a trace tree report. You can figure out how deep you want to go. And in this case, I'm running a trace tree report for a release 1. And it tells me, since I'm going to a depth of 2, it brings me all the business requirements in that release. And I can see something with a red arrow. What that means is there has been a change that has not been accepted by this team yet. And I can find out who the owner is and work with them to figure out what the change that they're not agreeing to is. The next step is project progress and potential troubles. As all development managers do, we would like to kind of find our troubles before the troubles find us. So we have given multiple dashboards here. You can look at a user dashboard, a project dashboard, a release dashboard, and a baseline dashboard. You also get one at a folder level. The idea of a dashboard is a collection of reports that are relevant to the role you're playing. Say if you're a release manager, you might look at the release dashboard and try to find the health of the release. Or if you're just an individual user, you could go to your own user dashboard and figure out what's happening for requirements that matter to you. And what you see here is different numbers in terms of first you see a set of canned reports, then you see different requirement types in the release and different parameters that might be relevant to you. That is from a review perspective or from a traceability perspective or in terms of testing or completion. And each number again is a hyperlink that you can click on and get to the trouble spot, right? For example, you could see how many requirements of business requirement type are in an incomplete stage in this release and click on the link and get the numbers. And the graph you're seeing here is a trend graph of each of those parameters. So you could see, for example, if you have say go live coming along for a release, you would expect to see your completed requirements kind of coming up and meeting that reference bar at the top. Requirement ownership, this is a crucial piece. We picked this concept up from Cisco. It's called OTTC. It just means one throat to choke. That is, every requirement should have one owner, and what that owner also gets is a dashboard that indicates, number one, a set of canned reports that indicate all the requirements that have his name as an ownership, and of course a metrics table at the bottom, so that he or she has this single point of view into all the requirements that he is responsible for. So if everybody is managing their house in order, the whole project should be in good shape. We understand that every, I would say, organization is very comfortable working with Word or Excel or PDF, right? And so we have given a rich two-way integration between Word and TraceCloud and Excel and TraceCloud. You can take your BRD or MRD or an SFS document, put it in the TraceCloud system, parse it to find your requirements, and if you ever want, you can regenerate the document back. As you can see in the bottom image, anytime you run a report, you have the option of taking the output either in Excel or in Word or PDF, or you could mail it out. And there are a couple of other important features I would like to mention, probably not go into too much detail. First is cross-project connectivity. That is, if your installation has multiple projects, you could still relate requirements from one project to another project. So in theory, you could have a test case in project X, actually testing requirements, say functional requirements in project A and project B at the same time. So nothing stops you from tracing across projects. Another concept is a built-in document control system. What this is as the project is progressing, you can take a snapshot of your report or a Word document or an Excel file and put it in the document control system, and it serves as one. It could be from an audit purpose, it could be useful. That pretty much showing you different stages of this report as time progressed, or it could always save you a lot of time when you run into this common discussion between, say, a product manager and a dev manager saying, you said this and I said this and he said this and she said this. Shared requirements, somewhat of an advanced concept, more relevant to larger enterprise organizations. Commonly something like you have a set of well-defined requirements that you understand and you publish, and different teams that are doing the implementation can search and import those requirements into their project space and develop them, and you as the domain owner can run reports to figure out who all are implementing your requirements and at what stage of development they are in. TraceCloud comes with a very rich web services API. For the tech geeks amongst us, we use something called a JSON RESTful API. JSON is like a lightweight XML, but far more cutting edge and a lot more useful. If you need more information about TraceCloud, you can go to this URL here, and it has a bunch of videos that try to demonstrate the tool and the features I mentioned before. You could reach out to us. I'm Nathan. My email ID is nathan@tracecloud.com, and I have my phone number listed there, or you can reach out to Sammy. And the website is tracecloud.com. I have a bunch of backup slides here. If you are interested, you could send me an email and I'll send you a PowerPoint, and you should be able to go through all the backup slides. That talks more about the architecture and system. So thank you for listening, and good luck with your requirements management.